Folks, welcome back to another review with yours truly, Sam Healey. Today I'm taking a look at this guy right here, Family Business. It's a neat little card game that has a mafia organized crime theme attached to it. It's a very quick, light take that game where you might not even get a chance to go. And the reason I say that is because when you reach the higher player counts, it is possible for everybody to pick on one person, and I really don't like that. You have to kind of allow for the group to simply not do that, and so maybe you want to say that at the onset. But it is a very quick game. It doesn't take very long at all, so let's get down to the table and take a look. Basically, each player starts with his whole gang face up so that everybody can see who is in their gang and how many people are left in their gang. And the center of the board leading up to the box here, the box actually does take part in the game, where is the hit list. And mobsters are added to and taken away from the hit list, and if a mob war happens, then the hit list starts to diminish, and so forth and so on. The whole point of the game is to have your gang left standing when all the carnage is done and over with. So of course you're trying to play cards from your hand to try to get the other players' mobsters onto the hit list and then have them die in a successive mob war or something to that effect. So the three different kinds of cards that you have in your hand, there are attack cards, which are the red ones, and then you have counter cards, which are blue, and then rescue cards, which are green. The red action cards or attack cards and the green rescue cards can only be played on your turn, but the counter cards can be played on other people's turns, and only one counter card can be played at a time, so whoever plays their counter card first is the one that actually gets to do it. So basically a certain hand would go something to the effect of the Moran gang will play a contract on the purple gang, and the contract says place an opponent's mobster on the hit list. So one of these guys would have to go. It doesn't really matter which one, they're all the same. This guy would be first in line, and he is up against the wall, which is the first part of the hit list. Okay, so then it would become the purple gang's turn, and the purple gang might play something like, I'm going to play a priority contract on the Moran gang. The priority contract says that you place a mobsters first on the hit list. So what would happen there is that the purple gang, Harry Fleischer here, would actually come down to the second position, and the Moran gang here, Adam Heyer, would actually go up against the wall in the first position on the hit list. Okay, so these contracts are played against each other. Now, you do have those counter cards that I was talking about as well. The counter cards are cards that will counter some of those nasty effects of those priority contracts and so forth. So for example, you have Family Influence here, which cancels the effect of any one contract, which basically means you get to save one mobster. Now the reason that's important is because if someone were to play a double contract on you, you would have to place two of your opponent's mobsters on the list, but if you have Family Influence, then you can save one of them so that only one goes up there. So Family Influence is one of those counter cards. And then Mob Power is says reverse the effect, not cancel, reverse the effect of one contract. So basically what would happen here is that if the Moran gang played a contract on Purple Gang and Purple Gang said Mob Power, then the Moran gang would have to add one of their gangsters to the hit list like that. All right, so that's what Mob Power does. Now, once there are 6 mobsters in the hit list, at any point in someone's term, a mob war begins. What that simply means is that now these people are going to start dying. So at the beginning of the next player's turn, the person who is first in line would be put into the rest in peace box, which is basically just the bottom of the box stacked up. And then that player would be able to go through their turn. At the beginning of the next player's turn after that, this next person would go. And this would continue like so until there were no mobsters left, or if a truce card was played. So a truce card would actually end a mob war but a mob war would still start if the conditions were still present for it to start. For example, having 6 mobsters on the hit list and so forth and so on. Now, there are other ways for a mob war to start. You could play a regular mob war card where you start a mob war. And for this card to be played, there doesn't have to be 6 guys out there. You can play a mob war at any given time. Or you could also do an ambush, which starts a mob war, and each turn the first 2 spots on the hit list are executed. So there's a number of different ways for mob wars to start. So that's the general gist of the game. And just to give you a certain idea of some of the other cards that are in the game, there are contracts out there that you cannot play family influence or mob power on. So if somebody plays this on you, you're basically stuck taking that contract. There are also cards that have just no family influence, but if you have a mob power card in your hand, you can still block this contract, or rather reverse it with mob power. They also have rescue cards like this one, Take It on the Lam, where you can remove 1 mobster from the hit list. It doesn't have to be yours. It could be anybody's, but you kind of want to keep your guys alive. There's also Police Protection, where you can remove any mobster from the hit list. So there's a number of different ways to rescue your guys from the hit list if you need to. There's also hit cards, which basically this one says execute any mobster. Don't even have to be on the hit list. But in order to do that, you have to place one of your mobsters on the hit list. St. Valentine's Day Massacre, where you execute all mobsters on the hit list. So this doesn't even require a mob war to be in effect. You just play this, everybody on the hit list dies. So again, this is a very light take that game where you are simply trying to be the last person standing, and if you're able to do that, you win. Now, as I mentioned in the introduction, there is the caveat that you can actually have a very strong player elimination vibe in this game. It's even possible for you to not actually get to play during the part of the game if everybody picks on your gang first. If they kind of team up against you, then it's possible for you not to even get a turn before your turn happens. Now, with all that being said, this is a very cutthroat game, and it's not a nice game at all, so you definitely have to already be in the right kind of mood to enjoy this game. But with all that being said, it is a very light game. It is a very quick game, so even if someone does get knocked out, which people will, the game is over quickly enough to where if they want to get in on the next game, or if you want to just choose to move on, you can do that pretty simply. This has been in my collection for a very long time. My old copy was showing its wear, so when I was at MeepleCon in Las Vegas last week, I saw this, picked it up for a good 12 bucks. It has a lot of game in it for not a very high price tag, which in today's economy is a very good thing. So that is Family Business. 2 thumbs way up from me. We'll see it on the flip side, folks.